Thank you, Rosalind and Daniel. That was really appreciated. As is everyone's attendance here tonight, thank you so much for everyone for coming and listening to the showcase. I know several of you have travelled quite some distance to join us, so it really is appreciated. For those who couldn't make it, I believe we've actually got quite a few people joining us via the Zoom link. It's 2022 after all. So thank you everyone who could join us. I'd have to first introduce myself. I'm Dr. Bronwyn Fancourt. I'm the Invasive Species Manager with the Kangaroo Island Landscape Board. I'm actually filling in at the last minute for Will Durack, who is our General Manager. Unfortunately, Will's fallen ill and is absolutely devastated that he couldn't be here. He's very passionate about this program and indeed about the showcase tonight, so he really is devastated that he couldn't be here. But I'm assured he's joining us via the Zoom link as well. I'm just going to do my best to fill his shoes at late notice, so apologies. We've also got another late apology from the Deputy Premier, Minister Susan Close, who's unable to attend due to a late clash with the schedules. We do, I believe James Johnson is still here. Hi, James. James is Minister Close's advisor, so he's actually here representing Minister Close. And we have the Honourable Leon Bignell, who is representing the seat of Mawson, which is the Kangaroo Island local seat. So thank you, Leon, for joining us and for agreeing to do a very impromptu short presentation later. Much appreciated. I'll just quickly touch on the housekeeping. The exits, for those of you who have come through the main door, that's one of them. There's another emergency exit standing over behind Way. Those who haven't already been the restrooms are actually through that back door. The bar will actually be open for the duration tonight. You've had some food brought around earlier. There will be some more food brought out in the intermission, which will be a little bit later. There will also be some filming. The Zoom broadcast is actually being recorded, and there will be some photos taken throughout the night. So if anyone does have any concerns with having their image recorded, could you please just let Wayne know? So I'll introduce Wayne standing at the back as our Landscape Board's communications guru. Just make yourself known to him if you have any concerns about being included in those images. So personally, I actually feel truly honoured to be part of this project and indeed this showcase tonight. I've only just moved to Kangaroo Island last year, but I feel like I've been part of this project from the very beginning in a strange kind of way. For me, my involvement started back in 2015, where we had a national feral cat management workshop in Canberra, where we pulled together all the experts that have been working with feral cats across Australia. Julie Quinn, Julie, I think, was actually at the workshop as well. I think Julie was the only other person in the room. And we also had Australia's first Threatened Species Commissioner at the time, Gregory Andrews, present. And he fought very hard to actually get feral cats on the radar, especially in the conservation space, because they've kind of slipped under the radar for quite some time. So that workshop, we actually discussed feral cat impacts, some of the control tools that were available, some of the new ones that were emerging, some of the challenges, the knowledge gaps, but most importantly, we actually tried to set some national targets for feral cat management across the country. And I'm actually, I don't know if I'm embarrassed or proud to say, I still actually have the photo on my phone where we sat down on the bit of butcher's paper and actually wrote out what the national targets we would like to see. We wanted some ambitious targets, and the very first one was to eradicate feral cats from 5 offshore islands. There were several others, but that first one is part of the reason we're here today. And these ambitious targets that we came up with right back then actually formed the basis of Australia's first threatened species strategy at the time. And the Australian government followed that up with supporting those 5 islands with $500,000 of seed funding for each island to actually kickstart their eradication programs. And luckily for us, Kangaroo Island was one of those islands. So if we fast forward 7 years to today, and I'm proud that the ongoing feral cat eradication program on Kangaroo Island, I actually now get to be a part of. I've worked with feral cats for more than a decade, and I've worked across 4 different states and territories. And while there's a lot of great things going on in the feral cat management space, I can honestly say that the work being done on Kangaroo Island really sets us apart and really puts us at the forefront of this feral cat management space across the country. We've got quite a few people that have said it can't be done, what we're trying to do. But as you'll hear tonight, not only can it be done, it is being done. And James's team have done an amazing job of actually progressing it to date. The on-ground work is already delivering tangible benefits for biodiversity, for human health, and for agriculture. And that one might come as a little bit of a surprise to some people, but in the agricultural space, we have quite a thriving sheep industry on Kangaroo Island. And feral cats, the diseases spread by feral cats with toxoplasmosis and sarcocystis, actually cost the Kangaroo Island sheep industry somewhere between $10 and $20 million a year. Now, we're actually trying to firm up that number and actually get some solid evidence behind it, but that's just our initial estimate. So they actually have a huge impact. The achievements to date are not only thanks to all the hard work that James and his team have been doing, but to many of the supporters that are actually in the room tonight. We've got many philanthropic supporters. We've also got many government supporters, and none of that work would have been possible without your assistance. So I'd just like to finish by introducing James Smith. For those of you who don't know James, and I'm sure most of you do, Dr. James Smith over here, if you've actually got any questions about the program, how you can help with the program, any questions about what we're doing, James is the person to go to. The other person I'll point out at this point is Patrick. Where's Patrick sitting? Hi, Patrick Menzel from our partners at Nature Foundation. As Rosalind suggested, if anyone wants to open their wallet, Patrick's the man to help you with alleviating you of that financial contribution. So leaving you with that, I think you've heard from me enough. Leon, if it's okay with you, we'll actually get you up to do a bit of a presentation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And can I begin by thanking Rosalind for that wonderful welcome to country, and can I also acknowledge, acknowledge the fact that we meet tonight on the land of the Kaurna people, and not only pay tribute to their elders past, present and emerging, but pay tribute to them for the stewardship they showed over our lands for tens of thousands of years, and we came in and buggered it up in less than 200. So we can learn so much from the example that they set and the way that they went about things. And I suppose if we look at somewhere like Kangaroo Island, it is pretty easy to see where those changes have come in the past 200 years. In July, I was in the Natural Science Museum in Geneva, and there's a bird in there, a dwarf Kangaroo Island emu, and it's the only skin of a dwarf Kangaroo Island emu anywhere in the world. Its bones are in the Natural History Museum in Paris, and it had an interesting story. It was one of two collected by Baudin when he was out here on his circumnavigation of Kangaroo Island and his work that he did with Flinders. And he took two of these back alive, and Josephine used to send Napoleon's men when they were out conquering new lands or exploring new lands. They would bring back plants and animals, and explorers were also ordered to find anything that they possibly could to bring back. And so this Kangaroo Island dwarf emu survived for about 16 years in Josephine's garden, and which made it the last surviving Kangaroo Island dwarf emu. And it just shows how quickly things can go extinct, because that was in the early 1800s. So if you think of South Australia was proclaimed in 1836, almost 20 years before South Australia was proclaimed, a small group of whalers who'd arrived on Kangaroo Island had managed to get rid of an entire subspecies. And then, you know, not to be outdone, in the 1800s, the early colonists tried to release rabbits onto the island, and we can thank the Goannas for cleaning them up. And we don't have foxes on the island, so that's one less pest that we had to get rid of. But only in recent years, I think it was probably around 2018 when we had the celebration that the final goats and deers had been and deer had been eradicated from the island. And it's not easy to go after these animals that are so elusive and evasive, and particularly once they got down to those final few goats and deer, it was a pretty tough job. The bushfires helped. It did so much damage, but in some ways helped with us being able to see the remaining pigs after years and years of important work on that. And I'm sure that Landscape Kangaroo Island and all of those who are involved in that are quietly confident that we've, almost cleaned up the final pigs. And for the past few years, we've had the cats in our sights, and it's been really interesting to watch the work that has been done on the eradication of the cat from Kangaroo Island. More than 100 islands have successfully eradicated cats from the islands, and we hope that Australia's third largest island, Kangaroo Island, can join that club. Because not only is it great for biodiversity, is it great for our environment, but it's also extremely important for the biggest industry on Kangaroo Island, and that's the agriculture sector. And that's what I love to see here in the room, is that we have people from primary production, we have people from the environment movement, we have people from the tourism sector. Everyone has worked together to try and get this program up and to make it a success, to eradicate the cat from Kangaroo Island. Anyone who's been down that Dudley Peninsula, and there's a road just up in the hills above Penneshaw, where there's a farmer who hangs cats on his fence, and he strings them up from the top strand of wire, and they reach all the way to the ground. And it's hard for people to actually visualize that these cute kittens and cats that they have in their house that they think just wouldn't hurt a fly are, of course, natural born killers. Every instinct in their body is to go out and to hunt and to kill. And I think we need to thank someone that I got to know as a journalist back in the early 1990s. I nearly said 1900s, that would have been showing my age. In the early 1990s, when I was at Channel 10, and that's Dr. John Wamsley, because I think he really helped change the perception of many people about what it is that cats can get up to. And he did it with a bit of shock and, I was going to say shock and awe, but some people were a little more shocked than awed when he turned up to the Tourism Awards wearing a hat made out of cats. And then the next year, not to be outdone, he turned up with a full-length coat with all these cat tails off the bottom of it. And he says, "I'm wearing my tails. I heard it was formal." And I think that's been a really important step along the way. I've got a dog that survived the Kangaroo Island bushfires. He was one of 7 pups. They were 5 weeks old. The entire farm was wiped out. The house was gone. Everything's gone. And he's called Dusty the Kangaroo Island Kelpie. And if you follow him on Facebook and Instagram, he has this Tom and Jerry style relationship with a cat that lives at our house. And he's told me to come along here tonight and say he's very, very supportive of the eradication of all cats, including this cat called Patrick, who's actually a girl cat, originally called Aliska, but Dusty, who's named after Dusty Martin from Richmond, because he's black and yellow, named Aliska Patrick after Patrick Dangerfield from the Geelong Cats. So Dusty sends his support to everyone, and we all do. We want to thank everyone who's come together across so many private sector, government sector, industry sectors to make this possible. And it's important that we come along to celebrate this tonight. I want to thank everyone who has dug into their pockets to make a donation to help in this really, really important cause. Because once we eradicate these animals, we know that the environment has got a much better chance of doing what it had done for tens of thousands of years before we turned up and started ruining the place. Tomorrow I'll be on Kangaroo Island with Claire Scriven, the Minister for Primary Industries, and we'll be out examining firsthand the cat fence and looking at other parts of this program. And as has been mentioned, Susan Close was double booked tonight. So she asked me as the local member of parliament to come along and send her best wishes and give thanks for all of the work that has been done. I'd like to thank the people from all the different government departments, because people think of government, but within that government, there are lots of different departments, and sometimes it's hard to get everyone working in the same direction. I think feral animals bring everyone together because everyone knows what a good cause this is. So we've got federal government, we've got state government, we've got so many wonderful groups who have pushed for this and come up with the ideas, but without that funding, it's pretty much impossible to do. It's a dream, but money makes it a reality. So thank you again to everyone involved in this, particularly Landscape Kangaroo Island, who have been pushing for this for so many years. Thank you very much.